I did the reading today because I'm in an unusual situation, and I hope that that was fine with you. We'll be back to our regular readings next week. And I want to thank Gary Lynn Floyd and Karen Drucker and our CSL music team for the wonderful music today. This month of September is all about authenticity, and today we're exploring seeing clearly. That means seeing with the eyes of your soul, your true insight. As we heard in our reading today, it's when you are outside your element, over the bridge in new territory, that you come to discover yourself the most. Now that's worth thinking about, is it not? And while you ponder it, let me give you your question for the week. What is the one choice you might make today to see yourself and others clearly? To trust what we see in yourself is enough, and to be willing to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. One more time. What is the one choice you might make today to see yourself and others clearly? To trust what you see in yourself is enough, and to be willing to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. Seeing clearly is about perception through love and purity. In Matthew 5:8 in the Bible, we read this: "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." So exactly what does it mean to see God? That's what I want to talk about today. How seeing clearly is more than eyesight, it's about insight. And how authenticity clears the fog that makes our way blurry. And how vision is about being in alignment with spirit. My ministerial dean, Catherine Economou, and part of our authors, used to say this: to see clearly is to stand in the stillness of your own soul and trust that is enough. I don't think we spend enough time in the stillness of our own souls. And that truly is the only place where we can see and feel and know God. We don't see ourselves clearly through our own eyes. It's often like we have a lens that's covered with fingerprints, and those fingerprints blur our vision, and they're a false self cloud until we wipe them off. To see ourselves as well as others clearly means being in the stillness and seeing what the insight that we obtain in that stillness. A Course in Miracles tells us the body's eyes see only form. The mind sees what it chooses to see. Spiritual seeing is about correcting perception. It's about seeing what God would see and living with those eyes. Buddha once told us, your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts. Wow. What unguarded thoughts do you have? True vision is free of distortion. It's not physical sight that's 20/20. It's spiritual sight, which is only perfect when we see with God's eyes. Our physical sight is the eyes of the body. What we see with our biological eyes is shapes and colors and objects and appearances. And that sight has limitations because it can be fooled by illusions. You know, if you've ever noticed, a stick in water looks bent, or mirages look real. Physical sight only perceives what is external and surface level, and it's influenced by conditions such as light and distance and clarity of the eye itself. The Bible in 1 Corinthians 13:12 reminds us that the body's sight is incomplete. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Physical sight is like reading the cover of the book. You don't yet know the story inside. Spiritual sight, on the other hand, is seeing with the eyes of the soul, with our heart. We might define spiritual sight as perceiving truth beyond appearances, because it goes beyond form to the essence, and it sees with wisdom and with love and with insight. Where physical sight might see separation, spiritual sight sees unity. With spiritual sight, we see clearly because it reveals the eternal and the invisible reality behind temporary conditions. Of Course in Miracles also told us, vision is not of the eyes, but of the mind. It sees only the truth. True vision sees only the truth. So to return to my book metaphor, spiritual sight is like reading the whole book. You see the meaning, just not the cover. Buddha would remind us that spiritual sight is about inner perception. Our life is shaped by our mind. We become what we think. We're humans on this planet, and we need both types of sight. We need our physical eyes to navigate the world, and we need spiritual vision to navigate life and to see that life clearly. Problems arise when we trust only physical sight because we confuse appearances with truth. For example, somebody may look angry. That's what we see with our physical sight. But actually, they may be hurting and needing some compassion. And that's what we would see with our spiritual sight. To live a path of clearly seeing, we have to align our seeing with authentic living. Ernest Holmes said, we should daily practice seeing with the inner eye of the spirit. So how do we go about doing that? Seeing clearly with spirit's eyes. Well, navigating life can be a lot like a ship at sea. When there's fog, there may be doubt or fear about what's coming up. And when the sun is shining and there's light, we can feel that sense of calm in the presence of spirit. And our compass is our intuition. Let's look at a couple spiritual practices for shifting from physical to spiritual sight. The first one I call lifting the fog. When you're in an area of your life where you feel foggy, like that ship at sea in the fog, ask yourself this: what would clarity look like here? Let's try it for a second. Think of an area of your life where you feel uncertain for some reason, and ask yourself what clarity would look like here. Did you get more clarity? And here's a couple more practices. This one I call pause and reframe. When you see something disturbing, ask, what is the higher truth here? And you might even use an affirmation such as this one. How is it I so willingly choose to see with the eyes of love. And here's another spiritual practice that I like. It's called spiritual sight meditation. Visualize light shining through appearances, revealing the essence of peace, love, and unity. And another spiritual sight mirroring is, instead of noticing physical flaws, look for this light of spirit within yourself and others. In other words, see with the eyes of love. Let me give you a few examples of some spiritual sight mirroring. At work, you might look beyond those stressful deadlines to the growth and collaboration that those deadlines might foster. In relationships, you might see beyond someone's harsh words to the love and the longing underneath that they have to be loved. And in your own self-identity, you might look beyond the aging or the illness or limitation to the external soul that can never be diminished. Another component of seeing clearly is having trust that what we see in ourselves is enough. When we live authentically, we see our own truth clearly. We know that who we are is who God made us to be, perfect as we move to even greater perfection. Ernest Holmes wrote, "The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained." And yet, if you're anything like me, you likely put yourself in bondage frequently. Clarity comes from self-knowing. It's like Lao Tzu told us, he who knows others is wise, he who knows himself is enlightened. So how well do you know yourself? Here's some examples. In a career decision, someone who doesn't know themselves might chase a career because of money, status, or even family pressure. With self-knowing, they realize that they thrive in creative, collaborative environments, not competitive ones. And with this clarity, they can stop pursuing jobs that drain them and focus on a path that fits their true nature. In relationships, people that don't know themselves keep repeating unhealthy patterns because they don't understand their own needs or their own boundaries. With self-knowing, they would see that they need respect and honesty and kindness to flourish. And that clarity allows them to no longer confuse temporary attraction with real connection. So they begin to choose partners who align with their true values. Or perhaps you're like me for so many years, saying yes to everything and then feeling resentful or burned out. With self-knowing, we know our limits and our priorities. And with that clarity, we can say no with peace and yes with authenticity. Spiritual growth is another area for seeing clearly. Without self-knowing, a person chases every new teaching, every book or guru, and constantly is searching outside of themselves for the truth. But with self-knowing, there's a recognition that Spirit is speaking to us in the stillness, not in that endless seeking. And that clarity stops the grasping and allows listening inwardly, which deepens our path. Handling conflict is another area in which seeing clearly is important, because if we don't have self-knowing, we react defensively and we try to prove that we're right. With self-knowing, people value health and harmony, more than being right. And knowing their worth doesn't depend upon winning an argument. I like to say, am I willing to allow this situation or this person to steal my peace? And with clarity, I can step back and listen and resolve the conflict with compassion and with that spiritual wisdom. And let's not neglect that area of life purpose where seeing clearly is so important. Without self-knowing, we might feel lost, following trends or other people's explanations or expectations of us. But with self-knowing, we know our true purpose. And it might look something like, my purpose is to bring beauty and healing through art. Or my purpose is to create messages that touch people's hearts. Clarity means that the path forward becomes clear because we're walking our own path, not someone else's. We're living from the heart, not from fear. Love is our guide. Jonathan Parker wrote, spiritual vision is the ability to see through illusion and recognize the truth that underlies appearances. So, how often do you see things the way you'd like them to be rather than the way they really are? The Dalai Lama cautioned us, see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. And yet, often, we struggle because we want reality to bend to our expectations. Clarity comes when we realize illusions and then meet life just as it is. I had a great lesson in that this past week. I was heading off to a week of vacation, and my vacation became a week of supporting someone in the hospital in the cardiac ICU unit. It wasn't what I was expecting, and yet it wasn't even what I wished it to be. And yet it was where I was meant to be. You know, often when I get up in the morning, I wish the scale would show me 10 pounds lighter. But that's the way I wish life to be. It's not clarity. It's actually a little bit of denial. I'm not going to lose 10 pounds overnight. Let me give you some practical examples of wishing versus seeing clearly. In relationships, hoping somebody will change is wishing. Accepting who they show themselves to be is seeing the world as it is. In health, pretending age doesn't matter is the wishing. Honoring our own needs is seeing the world as it is. In a career, believing more effort would change a broken system is the wish. Choosing to move where your gifts are honored is seeing the world as it is. In parenting, wanting children to follow your dream is the wish. Supporting their own soul's journey is seeing the world as it is. And in spirituality, wishing that spiritual practice will erase all that fear, that's the wish. The reality is realizing that spiritual practices help us hold fear with compassion. In the Bible, John 8:32, we read, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. How often do you know in your heart and soul what the truth is, and perhaps just don't want to face it or accept it? Ernest Holmes told us, We must look a fact in the face, but know beyond the fact is the truth. Holmes is inviting us to live authentically so we might see our own truth clearly. The fact this past week is my vacation turned into a caregiving week. And yet, that was exactly where I was meant to be. I thrive on creating places of love and comfort. And I noticed that my presence made a difference. Buddha wisely reminds us, 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Seeing clearly is freedom because it's honesty plus compassion. So the next time you're facing a challenge, think about making 2 lists to give you more clarity. The first list titled, How I Wish the Situation Were. And the second one, How It Actually Is Right Now. For example, I wish the situation this past week had been I had been on vacation with all the things we had planned to do. The actuality was that I was in a cardiac ICU room supporting someone that I dearly love. How about wishing that your job were more fulfilling? Maybe the truth is that you feel drained most days. And the clarity that can come from that is it's time to discern your next step. You might be surprised at what shifts for you when you name the situation as it is instead of as you want it to be. And if you're still having difficulty, try this affirmation. How is it I so willingly see things as they are, release illusion, and in clarity, find freedom? How is it I so willingly see things as they are, release illusion, and in clarity, find freedom? You know, I once asked my optimist if I needed glasses, and he said, well, let's put it this way. If you keep walking into walls, it's not a spiritual test. It's time for bifocals. Well, okay. So let's look at a couple more spiritual practices. One of them is what I call self-mirroring practice. You look in the mirror and you say this: I see you. I honor your truth. I see clearly through Spirit's eyes. I see you. I honor your truth. I see clearly through Spirit's eyes. I see you. I honor your truth. I see clearly through Spirit's eyes. Or this spiritual practice called clarity journaling. Write down your beliefs and habits that cloud your vision. And beneath each one of those, write what you know with insight is really the truth. In Proverbs 29:18, we read this: where there is no vision, the people perish. It takes vision to survive and seeing clearly if we want to thrive. Okay, one more joke before I quit. I tried to get my spiritual GPS to show me the way. It just kept saying, recalculating. Stop ignoring your intuition. Actually, that's great advice. So to wrap up, take a breath. Just imagine a sunrise breaking through the morning mist. That's what seeing clearly is truly like. Having our vision aligned with Spirit clears the fog. It clears those comparisons and judgments and wishing it to be the way we want it to be rather than the way it is. And it allows us to always live from love. And so, in summary, how might you learn to live seeing clearly? Well, start by seeing oneself and others clearly. Stand in the stillness of your own soul, like Catherine Economou invited us to do. And guard your thoughts. Look beyond those temporary conditions. Trust how you see yourself is enough. Look through the eyes of self-knowing and intuition and recognize the truth beyond physical appearances. Be willing to see things as they are. Give up those illusions of wishing and see the real truth. Examine your beliefs and habits. So here's the affirmation for the week. How is it I so willingly, energetically, and effortlessly see myself and others clearly, trust what I see in myself is enough, and am willing to see things as they are, not as I wish them to be? So make a conscious choice every day to see clearly. Trust that you are enough just as you are. And determine one way each day that you'd like to clear some fog in your life and write down the real truth. Commit to using the spiritual practices because they will enhance your ability to see clearly. You can use some I suggested or make up your own. I'm sure you have some great ideas. So let's pray. I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And just allow this blessing to inspire you to remember to live seeing clearly. Divine presence, love and joy and peace and ease and comfort and freedom, all that you are. Remind each of us daily to say, I see clearly with the eyes of spirit. My vision is pure, my path is clear. And may we make time to be in the stillness of our own soul and listen to that intuition and spiritual insight. And may we always remember to see things in the truth of what they are, not as we wish them to be. What I know to be the truth is that each of us heard something today that's helping us to see life more clearly and to trust that who we are is as God made us, divine beings that are wonderful. I see each of us being the embodiment of divine love. So guide our steps with wisdom and fill our days with gentleness and vision. And let each of us be rooted in peace and lifted by love. Choosing today to live in divine alignment with the truth of our being, knowing all that we are and all that we might become. I am so very grateful that each person here made a choice to spend time with us today. Grateful that we can go forth with joy and with courage and with an open heart knowing that we are guided to see clearly and recognize the truth beyond appearances. And it's from that gratitude that with joy, bliss, and blessings, I release my word into that divine yes, knowing it's already done. So I can say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is. And once again, I am so grateful to everyone that is contributing to this community. Thank you so much. Enjoy our offertory song.